Hi everyone, this is Andrew Prima, Ukrainian American, reporting from Kiev, Ukraine. In today's podcast, 44th week of war in Ukraine, and this is the last week of December 2022. In today's podcast, the last week of 22, still Russia keeps shelling civilians, and the latest attacks on the capital of Ukraine on New Year's Eve. The latest Ukrainian attack on Russian Engels airbase appears to have killed three Russian Air Force technicians, all of whom were associated with bombers Tu-160. However, no serious damage to the base or its facilities has yet been detected in available commercial satellite images. According to public intelligence, there are reports that the Russians then shut down their own jet Su-24 while their air defense fired at the approaching Ukrainian drone. For the past 3 days, Putin has been conducting something like around-the-clock missile attack on Ukraine. On the night of December 28th and 29th, they struck Ukrainian power systems in the Dnipropetrovsk and Odessa regions with Iranian-made Shahed 131 and 136 drones. Five were shot down over the Dnipropetrovsk region, and part of those flying to the Odessa region were targeted at the DTEC power plant. The energy facility is under repairs and is still not working. It left about 1.5 million people without electricity. A much more massive attack took place in the early morning of December 29th, when a total of 69 cruise missiles were destroyed, among them 6 KH-22 and KH-32, KH-31P, KH-101. Some of them were made very recently, and also KH-555 and Calibers, sea-based rockets. 11 Iranian-made Shahed 131-136 drones and several S-300 air defense systems were deployed from approximately 7 in the morning local time to strike infrastructure targets in 10 regions of Ukraine. As always, Ukrainian air defense responded harshly. It was stated that all 11 long-range missiles and 58 other missiles were shot down, of which 5 were man-pads missiles. One of the Ukrainian S-300 missiles crashed near the village of Horbach in the Brest region of Belarus. It's already in the Belarusian region and territory. So, the government of Belarus immediately declared a provocation. However, it sounds like a joke. How Lukashenko calls it a provocation when he allows Russian army to invade Ukraine from his country, and he allows to use his territory by Russian terrorists to bomb Ukrainian territory for the last 10 months. Also, in the Lviv region, Ukrainian air defense shot down 4 out of 6 missiles that reached them. 2 others hit an electrical substation, cutting off electricity in Lviv and about 290 settlements around it. In Kiev, in the capital of Ukraine, a series of explosions rang out of 2 districts, and Ukrainians said a total of 16 missiles were shot down before it became known that at least one industrial facility and several elements of the power system had been damaged. 3 people, unfortunately, were injured. At least 21 missiles were claimed to have been shot down over the Odessa region, indicating a significant increase in air defenses. However, enough Russian missiles hit 10 critical infrastructure objects, power plants, and various elements of the energy system in the Kiev and in the Odessa regions. I have no doubt that this will further worsen the already difficult electricity situation in most of the country. There are problems with water supply in Lviv, Kiev, and Odessa as well. In addition, only on December 29th, the Russian forces fired more than 50 rockets at the Sumy and the Kharkiv regions. At least one civilian was killed in Kharkiv, and this massive attack forced the city to shut down the subway system. Kherson and Nikopol cities are also constantly were under the fire. About a dozen people were injured when the Russians targeted the maternity hospital in Kherson, and in Nikopol the Russians damaged a gas pipeline in their trying with all their might to destroy local elements of the power grid. On the night of December 29th, 30, the Russians launched a stream of Shahed 131, 136 drones of the southern Ukraine at 11:05 p.m. local time. Air raid sirens sounded in Kropivnitsky, Dnipropetrovsk, and Zaporizhia regions. The Ukrainians said that 10 10 out of 12 drones were shot down. 5 of them in Dnipropetrovsk region and 5 in the Kiev region. And the warning signal sounded around 12:30 a.m. on December 30th. In turn, the General Staff of Ukraine reported a series of HIMARS strikes on Russian headquarters and supply warehouses in Tokmak, Chernihivsk, Pologne, and Berdyansk. All of them are in the Zaporizhia region. There are many reports that M142s are conducting intense fire on the Russian field headquarters and troop concentration in the Bakhmut area. So, as you know, the Bakhmut area still is the hottest battlefield in the whole front line. According to the Ukraine Armed Forces, every day between 100 and 300 Russian soldiers are dying, but the Russian commander he keeps sending the troops there because it's important to take this area. The area which is important for Ukraine because through the Bakhmut area there is a highway that supplies all the ammunition to Ukraine armed forces. So, what happens in Russia these days? As an internal process in Russia, not everything is working out of in our favor. Precisely because the economic potential of Russia felt insufficient pressure. The aggressor, despite imposed sanctions, still doing business with some countries and sells gas and oil. It still gives enough money to Putin to continue war and pay for all the weapons that being supplied, produced, or imported. Western sanctions are being strengthened by the effort of the Russian government itself, though. All the latest mobilization measures lead to the fact that the labor force is being washed away from industrial enterprises, which are the basis of the budget replenishment. If Russia makes any more attempts to attack its mobilization potential, they are going to recruit another 400 to 500,000 people from the new year. After all, working hands are called in, and the losses from this can even be compared to the Western sanctions. As for the Russian elites, gradual processes of external pressure and from the Russian leadership itself calls to count all those who fled and all those who took assets or money out of the Russia, almost consider them almost as enemies, as a people who fighting against Russia. So, as for so that is, it leads to the erosion of a small layer, which can be conventionally called the middle class, and the loss of any support for the Putin regime. So, as for the immediate circle, more or less obvious processes are already observed there. The division into military and non military units continues. Putin has recently realized that he gave power to some individuals to influence the Russian armed forces for nothing. The involvement of his closest allies, the Chechen leader Kadyrov and former convict and the head of private army Prigozhin, who leads the Wagner Group, didn't yield any tangible results. It becomes clear that the only force that can be relied on is the armed forces of the Russian Federation. We clearly saw that the situation in the Bakhmut region, when the head of private army Prigozhin aimed at positioning himself as a decisive force in the victory of Ukraine and degrading the role of the Russian armed forces. The process of confrontation between these two groups is currently in full swing, and it is not yet clear which of them will win and in what form, or will receive certain bonuses. Generally speaking, the degradation of Russia is taking place, and it is irreversible. Here, I see no signs that either the economy or the political movements can return to their pre war ways. Most likely, the processes of Russia's collapse and deterioration will continue. In 2022, Ukraine heard about 700 hours of air alarms. Since the beginning of Russia's full scale invasion of Ukraine, 120 residents of the capital of Ukraine, Kiev, have died, including 5 children, and another 495 people have been injured, including 30 children. During this time, the capital of Ukraine survived 52 air attacks by the Russian occupiers, as a result of which more than 600 residential buildings were damaged. Critical infrastructure also suffered significant losses. During the 310 days of the full scale invasion, the air raid sirens sounded 638 times, and the total duration of them was about 700 hours. More than 3,000 Ukrainian servicemen currently in a Russian captivity. About 15,000 more people, military or civilians, are considered missing. Also, the figures that should terrify and horrify Russians. Since the beginning of the full scale invasion of Ukraine, Russia has lost 107,000 of military personnel. There are data were made publicly. This data was made publicly by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine on the morning of the December 30th. Russian troops suffered the greatest losses in the Liman and Bakhmut directions. So, what do we expect in 2023? And we all believe in a good outcome of this war, and we all believe in the victory. I think 2023 will be a year of counteroffensive for Ukraine. We have all the chances and opportunities to carry out counteroffensive operations to liberate our territories from the Russian invaders. Any direction can become promising for the Ukraine armed forces. The most promising, I believe, is the Luhansk region and also Zaporizhia direction. But if you believe the American Institute for the Study of War that the Russian troops are expiring in the Donetsk direction and they no longer have reserves, then as soon as they stop their offensive, we can start counteroffensive actions there. So all three directions can be truly promising. The question is what of them will be chosen by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. As for the new types of weapons that Ukraine needs, I think we will get everything next year, everything in 2023. Perhaps not as quickly as we would like, but Western tanks such as Leopard may appear in the ranks of the armed forces, and operational tactical missiles of types ATACMS may also arrive in Ukraine. Also, I don't rule out that we can receive Western aviation from our partners by spring. These aircrafts are F-15 and F-16 types, which our Ukrainian pilots have been training to operate at least since summer of last year. It is quite necessary to expect both the mobilized people who are still undergoing training and new wave of mobilization in the Russian Federation. It is difficult to argue with Commander-in-Chief General Valery Zaluzhny in this sense that February-March is a more realistic period when the Russian Federation can deploy up to 200,000 more or less trained military personnel. The issue of personnel, I think, can be solved in Russia today. But the issue of weapons, especially heavy weapons for these servicemen, is a very big problem for the Russian Federation at the moment. Currently, almost 100% of Ukrainians believe in victory. To be precise, 93% of Ukrainians believe in the victory of Ukraine in the war against Russia. These are the results of the survey that was run in December, mid-September today and September. Only 3% of respondents doubt such results. The absolute majority of residents of all regions of the country are convinced of the victory of Ukraine, but in the eastern regions they are more skeptical. They are more skeptical about that. 10% of people from eastern regions believe that Ukraine will not win this battle. Of those who believe in the victory of Ukraine, 39% believe that it will come before December 2023, 22% bet on the victory in 1-2 years, and another 20% say that it will come in the coming months. 54% of Ukrainians see a victory in the expulsion of Russian troops from the entire territory of Ukraine and restoration of borders as of January 2014. Also, 22% of respondents believe that it is impossible to stop there, that it's necessary to achieve the complete destruction of the Russian army and the disintegration of the Russia from within. 18% of people are ready to give up certain parts of occupied territories in exchange for the cessation of hostilities and consider it a victory. Of these, 8% can be ceded only to the occupied Crimea, and 6% to those territories that were occupied until February 23, 2022. No matter what, we truly believe in the victory of Ukraine. We truly believe 2023 will finally bring independence for Ukraine, independence from the aggressor. And the aggressor must be defeated because we all have to understand this aggressor country, the aggressor state, will never gonna stop. After Ukraine, it can be Lithuania, Estonia, and other countries. Because ambitious of a sick person as Putin will never stop. Thank you for listening, and I wish to all of us the victory in 2023. Please share the podcast with your friends, and happy holidays.